Like many of you, I've been extremely excited to get into Unicorn Overlord, and thanks to Atlus and Vanillaware, I was able to get hands on early to bring you this review. Now, if you do enjoy the video, subscribe, it helps out the channel a huge amount, and let's get this out there immediately. This game, it is incredible. After 50 or so hours, I just want to jump back in. So starting with the story, it's a straightforward premise. You are a young man, heir to the throne, whose once peaceful life is upended when an evil general and his army invade. They murder our mother and seize control. Now, thanks to some loyal guards, we manage to escape, and years later, we rejoin this group and find we are a young man trained for war, ready to confront the enemy. This is really the overarching theme: travel from region to region, grow in power, reclaim the land, and overthrow that enemy. So though the narrative is linear, what sets it apart is the characters you meet. Now, there are over 60 possible characters to include in your units, each with their own unique story and background, and I really enjoyed that. I found myself more intrigued than ever by side missions because I wanted to dive deeper, and overall, just incredible stuff. Today we'll be keeping our discussion on gameplay relatively high level as there's a lot to cover, but I would recommend downloading the demo just to get a feel for the gameplay. It's definitely an excellent introduction to all of the different mechanics. So Unicorn Overlord, it's a strategy RPG that combines real-time strategy, world map exploration, and extensive dialogue with numerous characters. Now, each of these areas is incredibly detailed on its own, so mastering the different systems will admittedly take some time. Now, exploration is by far the most straightforward aspect. Traverse different locations, discover plenty of loot, and unlock new areas. Now, during this journey, you'll come across one-off battles that can halt your progress as well. Being defeated in these encounters sends you back to the last checkpoint or discovered location. Conversely, defeating them opens up new areas ahead. Now, these encounters, similar to the core battles, require strategic thinking, particularly in terms of unit positioning and item usage. However, they're somewhat easier to manage as long as your characters are suitably leveled up. It's a one fight and done scenario. What really fascinated me in the open world exploration though was encountering towns that have been attacked or destroyed. In these areas you have the chance to assist by handling deliveries, so essentially this involves finding loot and delivering the required goods to upgrade the town. As you help rebuild, you'll be rewarded with improved shopping opportunities, and you'll actually see your efforts reflected visually in the town's recovery, which is definitely a nice touch. Now, towns allow you to buy weapons and armor, provisions, and there's other activities such as going to the pub for food and bonding with your squad, boats to find hidden locations, and the ability to station guards to assist the townfolk. I just really enjoyed the exploration because it's fast-paced. You can sprint and explore at your own leisure, providing a nice balance to the strategic demands of combat. It offers well-needed breaks between intense, brain-powered sessions. Now, before we dive into the combat, it's worth mentioning here that upon starting the game, you are greeted with various difficulty options ranging from easy to hard. Now, today's footage is from the standard normal difficulty, yet there were still moments I found myself needing to grind a few levels, and I had to retry scenarios with different unit setups. It's also important to note that every town you visit, every conversation you have with your team, and every piece of loot you do collect, it actually rewards you. You earn gold for expenditures, honor, which serves as a sort of trophy system allowing you to expand your unit sizes. You start from squads of 2, and then finally there is an army rating. This rating is crucial as the higher it goes, the more freedom you have in unlocking larger squads and commanding specific items. These areas are also all rewarded through the different battles. So when it comes to the combat system, it presents a deep array of mechanisms. If you're familiar with their previous title, 13 Sentinels, where combat kind of took a backseat to narrative and was relatively simple, here you'll encounter a significant shift. You're faced with an extensive selection of systems and also a noticeable learning curve. Initially, managing units as well may seem straightforward, but as you quickly unlock new characters, balancing it all becomes an incredible challenge. So basically, you could easily, like me, spend hours navigating these menus. Now I like that, but I have to say it because it may not appeal to everyone. At sentiment, I completely understand. You know, even I found it overwhelming by the end game as it requires strategizing, unit positioning and their behaviors in different scenarios. Now to give a clear idea, all combat here is automated, resembling a real-time strategy game. However, unlike the usual overhead view, battles here zoom into a more JRPG style design. Your control, as I said, it lies in the composition of the unit and their behavior. So for example, placing a shield bearer in the front row to block attacks, but also offset to avoid a spear thrust that could hit both members. You could then set behaviors such as characters prioritizing healing themselves when below 50% health before they go ahead and attack. It's also constantly then entertaining just figuring out which units are going to be best in which scenarios. So for example, how can you maximize their skill set? A very basic example would be archers against flying enemies. Also interestingly, the combat system doesn't focus on fighting to the death either. Instead, the winner is determined by who dealt the most damage, with the loser getting pushed back and placed on a cooldown. Also a lesson I learned the hard way: you can't just set a unit then forget it. In battle, you can adjust their formation pre-combat, and you absolutely should. Now to quickly summarize a few must-know details about combat, since breaking down every aspect would take a huge amount of time. Combat utilizes Valor, essentially points you can exchange for units or special moves. You start with a limited amount and you gain more by defeating enemy units. There's also then a stamina system, preventing over-reliance on a single unit, another mistake I often made initially because depleting all action points actually leaves you immobile. And then finally, when you do select a unit, it freezes the game. Use this time to make wise decisions. Additionally as well, every battle has a timer. If you don't beat the clear conditions in that time, you do lose, and the same thing happens if they take over your main location. So this kind of the game freezing, it really is massive, and you really should take advantage of it. Finally then, while combat animations do zoom in for a more detailed view, you can bypass this by pressing the start button to keep the action on the main screen. This feature is useful for straightforward battles, but I recommend watching the detailed animations for more complex encounters, just to better understand what parts of your strategy are, the most effective. Finally, when it comes to the combat, I transparently didn't focus on all characters, and I'm not sure it would be a smart play. That would be way too much. I instead built out a core selection that I felt worked best together, and this is one area where I do think the game could be improved. That is the weapon and equipment setup. It's pretty, tough to navigate even after hours with the game because you have so much equipment and so many characters to figure out. A few additional filters would go a long way, and even a more clear breakdown of what is already equipped. Now the funny thing is as well, it's only 3 pieces of equipment per character alongside their unique moveset, which does gradually expand. But yeah, the layout can feel a little clunky at points, and when you do, 60 plus times 3, it is a lot to manage. This said though, I do think this is a minor issue, outweighed by the overall experience. Now for those overwhelmed by the equipment choices, the game offers a solution as well. Pressing the plus button when selecting a character automatically equips them with optimal gear. This feature provides a solid foundation from which you can customize your character's balance between power and defense, making it a really good starting point. So that is the gameplay of Unicorn Overlord, and if I had to describe it, I'd put it as it's a simple enough exploration system complemented by a huge roster and a detailed strategy system that works well for the most part. Look, sure, it has a few very minor issues. For example, some battles can get a little busy on screen, making it awkward to select the unit you want quickly, and a few areas, such as there's a map where the forest is on fire, can be a little infuriating because your units stroll right into them unless you do plot a perfect path. But yeah, look, I've had an incredible time. It's the best game I've played so far in 2024. Final Fantasy Rebirth is up next for me, but yeah, I'll absolutely be coming back to this after that. I want to go for 100%. I want to see all of the side quests, and now I want to uncover all of the secrets, as there's still so much I don't know that the game has hinted at. Visuals and audio then, stunning. The world is beautiful to look at, and I love that Vanillaware kind of style. I think that when you see images, it doesn't quite do justice to how good these characters look in motion, and seeing the attacks evolve as I've progressed has made me watch so many of these encounters. The world then just changes frequently, and the user interface as well, for how complex the game actually is. It's really been well handled, and I never had issues figuring out what was happening. You know, once again, I will say I had some issues with inventory, but that was more from a there's so many options point of view over how it actually looks. The audio then, this is how you do it the right way. The voice acting throughout is superb, and it is frequent. Any important story beat has accompanying voice work, and the music, it's as epic as you would expect given the fantasy setting, with big orchestral pieces and a range of tempos to reflect the on-screen events. So overall, a Unicorn Overlord has been incredible. It's the best game I've played once again so far this year, and yes, it is only March, but this has set the bar high, and that will be a challenge for any upcoming titles. I openly admit I'm a fanboy of Vanillaware, but they never disappoint. Now on that note, I previously rated 13 Sentinels a 10 out of 10, and I stand by my statement that it's one of the finest examples of video game storytelling. I also stand by the fact I encourage everyone to experience it. However, I must say that 13 Sentinels was more accessible from a gameplay standpoint than this one, and do consider that to be a warning. Basically, Unicorn Overlord demands a deeper understanding of its mechanics. It's not a game you can simply power through as you might have with 13 Sentinels, where the difficulty felt more manageable. This makes Unicorn Overlord a bit more specialized, best suited for strategy RPG fans, which is exactly what I wanted. Basically, for newcomers, be prepared for a steep learning curve filled with tons of information, but this complexity is what contributes to its immense reward. Basically, if you're willing to dedicate the necessary effort, this game, it is a must play. So you've probably guessed this, but Unicorn Overlord earned my 5th ever 10 out of 10 on the channel out of over 600 reviews, and to Vanillaware, my parting comment is simple: please, just please never change. So will you be checking out Unicorn Overlord? Let us know in the comments. With that, hit subscribe, join us here for reviews, deals, news and lists daily, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.